All right, good afternoon, everybody. We've come to the end of the program. Phil has asked me to wrap things up. But before I do, I want to extend a very special thank you to the real unsung hero of today, Megan, standing over there. Thank you so much for everything. I see you're still standing, you're still smiling. I love it. I love it. You're great at what you do, and we're lucky to have you. So thank you so much for everything. If I take a step back and think about everything that all of the great speakers said today, a couple things jump out to me. The first is I think this group here and the people listening online as well have done a great job at issue spotting. I think we've identified just about every single ransomware issue that I could possibly think of and discussed them, which is terrific. I think we've done a lot of foundational building as well over the last 2 or 3 years. Who's counting? Which is great. Phil, how many recommendations do we have? 48. So 48. I mean, I can't think of another organization that's had 48 accomplishments in the last 3 years in this town. No offense. So that's a tremendous achievement to everybody here. But if I think about where we should go next and where I'd like to see this go next year, would be a move towards action. And I'm going to tell you a short story to kind of illustrate what I mean. So my first job, I'm a former Air Force guy. My first job in the Air Force was as an ammo troop, which is some guy that basically builds bombs. And I was assigned to an F-117 unit as a stealth fighter, since been retired, but it was our platform. And one of the first things that happened when I was on active duty is that the unit that I was assigned to was tasked with killing Saddam Hussein. This was in the lead up to the war with Iraq. And if you guys, maybe some of you recall this, but we knew there was going to be this war. Troops were amassing on the border. Ships are there. We know this is going to happen. We're not sure when, but we know it's going to happen. And then almost exactly 21 years ago, dating myself a little bit, almost exactly 21 years ago, the government received actionable intelligence that Saddam Hussein was in this place called Dora Farm. And the F-117s were tasked with killing him. And this was March 19, 2003. And this is the kind of assignment that you dream about, right? The opportunity to kill the commander-in-chief of your enemy and potentially stop the war before it even starts. It was very exciting. So we got the planes up and we got them loaded, and they went and did their mission. Unfortunately, we hit a bunch of dirt. He wasn't there. And the rest is kind of history. But the reason I bring that up is that was kind of my first experience in fighting what I would call, the wrong war for many reasons, the wrong war in the wrong way, right? We were trying to fight an army. We were trying to take out a commander-in-chief. We actually did that successfully. Everyone here knows we defeated the Iraqi army. We overthrew the government. We did the same in Afghanistan. But we missed the real enemy. The real enemy was Al-Qaeda. And they were not defeated. And we were not used to dealing with that kind of an adversary. This was not a hierarchical entity with tremendous amounts of command and control. This was a highly networked adversary. There were some nodes of power. There was a leader, but it was able to reconstitute itself. It was very flexible, very adaptable. And we didn't really know how to handle this yet. And one of the key people who was responsible for defeating Al-Qaeda was a man named Stanley McChrystal. Some of you here may have started with him and may know him. And before he came on board, the military, when dealing with Al-Qaeda, would launch a raid against a target. We identify a target. We'd launch a raid probably once a month, right? Which is actually reasonably high ops tempo. But we weren't, even though these raids were generally successful, we weren't able to actually defeat Al-Qaeda. They were able to reconstitute in the next month before we could go back out again. And so one of the most important things that McChrystal did was really a process innovation. He understood that in order to defeat this enemy that could simply reconstitute itself, you had to move much, much, much faster, and you had to move more aggressively. And so what he did is conceptually, it's actually kind of simple. He broke down the barriers, and there are significant barriers between the different services. He broke down the barriers between the forward units and the headquarters, and he broke down the barriers between the military out there fighting the war and the intelligence agencies back here doing a lot of the analysis. And the end result is, before he started this, as I mentioned, we were launching these raids once a month. By the time he left, the military was able to launch these raids 2 or 3 times a night, 2 or 3 times a night from once a month. And that is what that innovation brought about. And in doing so, the military was able to actually disrupt Al-Qaeda before they could reconstitute. That is ultimately how they went on the path towards being operationally defeat it. And I think there are a number of analogies to the cyber world here, right? I mean, a lot of the organizations we're talking about, they're not hierarchical. In many cases, they're not strictly speaking governments. They are networks. They are, if we take them down, they are able to be reconstituted faster than we can do something else. So we need to be a lot faster. I think there are 3 lessons in particular that have taken away from this and would encourage everybody here to think about and talk about. The first is that a process, if done fast enough and good enough, can be a capability, right? And you'll notice in my Crystal analogy, I didn't say he invented some kind of a new laser or something. He had a process innovation. And he got so good at it that they were able to generate a new kind of capability on the battlefield, which I think is something that we are in the process of doing here now, is innovating on process, breaking down silos, sharing information. We're making progress on that first step. The second is that rather than waiting for intelligence or exquisite intelligence to take an action, take an action. Actions generate intelligence that generate more action. Be bolder, be faster. I think that's very applicable here. And then the final takeaway is, if you want to defeat a networked adversary, you have to move faster than they do. You have to change the scenario, whether it's defensively for your customers or offensively if you're talking about government capabilities. You have to change the scenario. You have to change reality faster than they can adapt. And if we can do that, then I think that is how we ultimately win here on ransomware. So I'll leave you guys with that thought. And I thank you very much for your time, and see some of you at the awards dinner here. So thanks again.